This is Jim Fetzer in Madison, Wisconsin, with Giuseppe Vaffangulo in the District of Criminals and David Scorpio from the exotic land of Ecuador. We have what you need to know to share today. Serious, serious stuff. We have a report from the Political Insider by Christopher Barron that Trump and the coming red wave is going to envelop the nation. With only days left, it's time to make my predictions, writes Christopher Barron. In 2016, I predicted a Trump win, accurately predicting he would flip Michigan. But even I didn't see the magnitude of the president's win incorrectly, thinking Hillary would prevail in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. The top line or the bottom for the presidential race is it's going to be tight in several key battleground states. But when all is said and done, President Trump will be reelected. Here is his map. 305 electoral for Trump, 233 for Biden, but that includes giving him all the Pacific Coast states and Nevada, giving him Wisconsin, giving him Virginia, giving him New York, where I actually think that the wave for Trump is going to be substantially greater. Biden will prevail in the popular vote, he suggests. I'm not so sure because so many Democrats are voting for Trump, meaning Democrats will spend the next 4 years crowing about how we need to change the rules, meaning abolish the Electoral College so their candidate can win. It'll be clear on election night Trump's been reelected, despite the fact it'll be absolutely clear most of the major news networks will not call the race. I agree. Joe Biden won't concede. Twitter and Facebook will censor posts from the president after he declares victory. The country will spend the next month in a series of pointless court challenges from the Biden campaign. The media will breathlessly talk about how the election was stolen. But in the end, Trump will have been right on election night. He'll be sworn in again on January 20th. Substantiating evidence, Florida Democrats are panicked. One of the big problems with the Biden campaign is they haven't been doing outreach on the ground because of the pandemic. Field organizers have flipped out, realizing what a disaster that entailed, while Trump folks were doing everything they could to reach out. Hispanic support for Trump has exploded, outperforming even his 2016 members, in part because Democrats have been lurching precipitously toward socialism, and many in Florida, refugees from nations like Cuba and Venezuela, see the warning signs, scared to death of what the Democrats are doing. They also see the failure to properly call out the radical leftist riots. Town hall reports Democrats have a big turnout issue in the Hispanic community in Miami-Dade. Hispanic Democrat turnout is only 48%. Republican Hispanics are at 57%. Meanwhile, Democrats are also worried Minnesota could flip for President Trump. The Atlantic's Peter Nichols reported that the Democrats estimated as many as 250,000 white residents who didn't go to college, who were not registering during the last presidential campaign, who are going to turn out for Trump. Former Representative Jason Lewis, a Republican Senate candidate from Minnesota, during an October 13th appearance on Breitbart, said he believed the Minnesota suburbs are coming back Republican because of fear of riots, public safety, and Second Amendment. Here is a Trump rally from Duluth, where I spent 19 years on the Duluth campus of the University of Minnesota, which is why I believe the landslide is going to be even greater than anticipated. 60% of the attendees were not Republican. Over 20% were Democrats. Over 17% did not vote in 2016. And nearly 8.5% have not voted in the last 4 elections, but they're turning out for Donald Trump. Giuseppe, I think it's going to be a big red wave. Your thoughts?
Well, Jim, I certainly believe that scenario is plausible. The only caveat I would insert is like the Yoda character from Star Wars. The Trump derangement syndrome is strong in the mask wearers. The mask wearers are so fearful and so hate Trump that it could maybe pinch a state or two, like maybe North Carolina, because the globalists have a strong infrastructure there. But, the silent majority is so offended by the Democratic support and the Soros control of the Democratic Party with this Antifa Bolshevik attack on our sovereign rights and freedoms, and the whole Black Lives Matter burn, loot, and murder rioting, that I think the most plausible scenario is the one you're laying out here, with the silent majority voting thumbs down to Joe Biden.
Scorpio, your thoughts?
Thumbs down to Joe Biden. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I do think Trump's going to be victorious, only because, just judging from the speeches alone, Biden can't draw 100 people to save his life. And I've noticed they're using the Biden double to do all the campaigning. This guy is much more vibrant and alive, and he can actually cobble together a couple of sentences without fumbling. But I do think what's going to happen is we're going to see this election disputed, unless there's a landslide, like you say. But I'm not as confident as you are about that. For example, Pennsylvania has until November 12th to count all the votes. Other states have similar laws where they have like an entire week to count the votes. And if you look at some of the Democrat shenanigans in 2018, this is how they won the states. They just delay until they get enough votes stuffed in there for them to win. And, I heard something very strange on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, who's pretty much a no-talent bum. 300 lawsuits have already been filed about this election. So we might have a scenario where lawyers decide who the victor is. I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen, but I think we're going to be in for a wild ride this coming week, Jim.
I think there's no doubt about that. A wild ride indeed. Meanwhile, minorities speak out about why they refuse to vote for Joe Biden and proclaim President Trump is their man. Here was campus reform traveling to colleges where they spoke with minority students. Here's some of the observations about Biden. Joe Biden's been in government for almost 50 years. The man was a racist. There's a video of him with Ruth Bader Ginsburg trying to justify the Confederate flag. You're telling me because of my skin color, I have to think a certain way? That is racist. That must be, if you ain't voting for me, you ain't black. If he were to be elected, imagine how many more black people would be probably incarcerated. He and Kamala have contributed to black people's imprisonment. On Trump, I don't think he's perfect, but I think he's actually trying to make America great again the best way he believes he can. Even when he referred to African countries as being crap hole countries, he was specifically talking about their economies, and that's something that's not debatable. In 2016, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you. I was a Bernie bro to the fullest. He's a very blunt president, but when you take his Twitter aside, he actually has done many successful things as president. Prison reform has helped minority communities. A lot of his tax cuts have benefited minorities as well. The economy is helping minorities. You see, African American rate of unemployment at an all-time low, Hispanic unemployment at an all-time low. Trump's economic plans after the Tax Cuts and Job Act have definitely brought up our communities of color, our minority communities. Meanwhile, as Scorpio was observing, they're running the Biden double everywhere. He doesn't suffer from the cognitive impairment of Joe, and he isn't incontinent, so he doesn't have to wear adult diapers. You can tell the difference because Joe has earlobes and the double doesn't. Joe has blue eyes, the body double has brown. The body language with his wife is quite telling. She's glowing when she's with Joe, hand in hand, arm in arm. He has a big smile. she walks separate from him and looks rather glum while he's not smiling. There again, look at the earlobes versus the absent. There's no doubt about it. Giuseppe, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting, Jim. One of the greatest misplays of the arrogant left liberal intelligentsia is to assume that minorities and working class people are stupid, and they may not have the book learning of a man or a woman of letters, but they are by no means stupid. And in so many instances in this country, in this time, it's a class decision, not a skin color decision. If you're came to this country, like for example, a gentleman I know here in the DC area, legally immigrated to the United States, a Mexican gentleman, saved up his money, bought a taco truck, and now he has 8 successful casual dining restaurants. He's a success story, and now he's a millionaire because he worked hard and he caught some breaks, and his food's great. And so he's going to decide based on his economic or class interests, not his skin color. And I think that that's the same case for blacks, for Asians, for Central Americans, Mexicans, you name it. I think it's an arrogance that's going to be the globalist downfall.
Next time I'm in your vicinity, let's have some tacos. Scorpio.
Oh man, you bet.
Scorpio, your thoughts?
Well, the article about the minority youth is interesting. Why would young people of any race vote for a 47-year government grifter who's been who's totally out of touch with the lives of the average American? It doesn't make any sense. A lot of it's going to come down to, in terms of young people, as to how effective the public school indoctrination program has been. A lot of these kids are Marxist communists. They just don't know it. Hopefully that kind of programming isn't working, and that people actually want to have sovereignty and opportunity in life, not having government decide every single course of action that they make in their lives. And yes, this Biden double, there's no question. It's just really obvious that the energy level this other guy has is so different. And I don't know if you caught this 60 Minutes interview with the Joe Biden double. I've never seen anything so shameless. It was the total opposite of what they did to Trump. You could tell they had the questions planned out, and he knew the questions ahead of time. And it was just so he could knock all the questions out of the park. It was just unbelievable. And yeah, the Biden double is in full swing here, guys.
And the mainstream media realizes it's a double. The New York Post is the only mainstream journal out there reporting about the secret emails, involvement with China, the corrupt involvement, the photograph that demonstrates Joe Biden's been lying to the public by insisting he never met with businessmen who are running Burisma, working with his son Hunter. It's completely outrageous. We even have a Ukrainian lawmaker reporting they have a second laptop from Hunter that's been seized by their law enforcement. It turns out Hunter's uncle, Joe's brother, Jim, was very much involved in the Biden crime family and dealing with China. There's no doubt about it. Meanwhile, Joe says his son Hunter is the smartest guy I know. The 2020 nominee discussed his son on an Oprah Winfrey virtual voter mobilization event, said he didn't think he should run, that he could do more good as a senator. The former vice president said he discussed the decision with his wife, his mother, and his late son, Beau. He also mentioned Hunter, saying, "And I had my son Hunter, who's the smartest guy I know." Biden said his mother told him, "Joey, the first man in history is able to be elected president as an African American. He said he needs you to win Pennsylvania and other states, and you told him no." I said, "Oh, Mom, what are you doing to me?" I said, "Yes, I will." So I picked up the phone and called Barack. I mean, give me a break. Giuseppe, your thoughts?
What a bunch of apocryphal bullshit. I mean, it's all fiction. Joe Biden has been a craven political player. He once was a bright guy himself, but then people in the media forget he had 2 brain surgeries for aneurysms and he nearly died. And he's been more of a wise guy than a thinker since then. And he's really on his way down. It's a true puppet, a true stooge. Kamala Harris in as the president of the United States, and therefore full speed ahead, pedal to the metal with Agenda 21, Great Reset, New Normal, all those vile euphemisms to destroy the sovereign republic of the United States. So to me, that's the only reason, and the main reason you should not vote for Joe Biden is Kamala Harris.
Scorpio, your thoughts?
I totally agree with what Giuseppe said. And of course, don't forget, Joe Biden has promised to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, too. That'll really give us a good screwing. Well, when it comes to the Bidens, the family that steals together stays together. And, it's certainly a family affair here. Everybody got a little piece of the action, but that's always how these kind of things work. And as far as these allegations, or they're more than allegations, this incredible story about the Biden family global crime network, there's really no mention of it at all on the mainstream media. I mean, zero. It's just incredible. And if you go to the social media, it's all been sanitized and it's unverified allegations, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think it's going to have a lot of effect on the election, because people that are in Democratic circles are very well insulated from this. And if they do hear about it, it's all, it's nothing. It's all Russian. It's a Russian campaign of disinformation. So it's the state of our media is beyond pathetic. And Obama is lost it. His charisma is gone. I heard him talk about how Trump has turned Air Force One into a super spreader and the White House into a hot zone. Well, those are clever little things, but how is that going to resonate to the average person that wants to have a good life? It isn't. And I don't think Obama's campaigning is going to have any effect. It's sad. The guy's completely lost it.
I think it's good that he is going down big time here. He's making no effect. He's irrelevant already. Yeah. Meanwhile, we know the FBI instructed Facebook to censor anything negative about Biden, knowing what would be coming out. But now we seem to have more information about why. Here's an anonymous post claiming Hunter Biden is flipped from the 28th last Wednesday. Hunter Biden has turned himself into the FBI. He was personally interviewed this afternoon by Barr and 6 other Justice Department lawyers. He's been stashed in a medical facility in Washington, D.C., where he's getting treatment for his addictions. So far, he's signed statements and provided proof of over $300 million in bribes the Biden family has received in the last 20 years. The funds are hidden in several accounts in Switzerland. Hunter has provided proof that Joe has been accessing those accounts and using funds for years. So far, the evidence shows Joe Biden has personally removed over $45 million in cash and used it for personal items. The information been forwarded to the special unit of the IRS for investigation. Barr will be meeting with Biden on Friday and recommend he either withdraw from the race or face numerous criminal charges. If he withdraws from the race and forfeits all funds in the accounts of Biden family, and specifically Hunter, will not face criminal charges. That doesn't sound completely right to me. Meanwhile, it turns out the Bidens were working to sell 14% of Rosneft Oil Company to the Chinese to circumvent U.S. sanctions on Russia. That is the Russian oil service, and FBI Director Christopher Wray, we're told, was representing Rosneft. This is a fascinating development. When Wray was nominated for FBI director, CNN reported he removed all references to his representation of Rosneft. Hunter's laptop includes details about the deal between the Russians and the Chinese to circumvent Trump's Russian sanctions. The reason Wray's FBI has been sitting on Biden's laptop is that it includes all the details about his client's Rosneft's deal with the Bidens in China. I doubt he wants the details of the attempted circumvention to get out. That's pretty serious, implicating the director of the FBI. But notice how parallel it is to James Comey with Hillary's email. He bottled them up just as Christopher Wray is bottling up Hunter's laptop. Giuseppe, your thoughts?
The greatest mistake of the Donald Trump in his presidency is recruiting high-level operatives like Mad Dog Mattis, like John Bolton, like Christopher Wray, like so many others who are not loyal to him. And he believed his strength of will, his personality, he could flip them to serve him and not the deep state. And this guy, Christopher Wray, is such a low-life traitor, such an insider. He's got no business running the FBI. And between him and Comey, they've destroyed the integrity of the FBI so much that it needs to be disbanded and something new put in its place, because there's no saving its reputation after those two. And it's just tragic. And I hope President Trump realizes in his second term he needs to bring on national populist loyalists to come in and run his administration in the second term and get rid of these dual citizen traitor globalists who have sabotaged his presidency every step of the way.
I think you're 100% correct, Giuseppe. Scorpio, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree about the FBI. The FBI is nothing more than a tool of the shadow government now. It's completely corrupt. It's there to keep things under wraps and covered up. It's no longer any kind of a legitimate organization. Maybe at the lower levels, they do some good things. Maybe, I don't know. But certainly at the top, it's as corrupt as it can get. And, it's amazing how, I don't think that anything's going to happen to Hunter Biden. I hear about all these investigations. Maybe I'm jaded. It just seems to me like none of them go anywhere. It's just a show, a steam valve to make people think they're doing something. And, it's amazing how these tech overlords are really doing all they can to flip this election. They've got guys in flip-flops and jeans that think they're the overlords of the average American,
Right.
censoring people and trying to alter the conversation at every turn. I just learned today that one of the biggest Facebook groups, pro-Trump, Women for Trump group, was simply deleted off of Facebook the other day. Amazing.
It's completely outrageous.
Yeah.
Yep.
Meanwhile, here's a reminder. On Tuesday, Election Day, that's tomorrow, Giuseppe, Scorpio, and I are going to do a live election night coverage from 8 to 10 p.m. Central and 9 to 11 Eastern. You don't want to miss it. We will be there. Join us. Meanwhile, Vimeo goes to the dark side, censors a video on Black Lives Matter's connections with the Chinese Communist Party. This comes from Dr. Ewan, who runs the Fellowship of the Mind's blog, which I highly recommend. Years ago, when YouTube began censoring videos for political reasons, especially videos of the Sandy Hook false flag, some of us saw refuge at Vimeo, a New York City headquartered video hosting, sharing, and service platform with more than 200 million members across more than 150 countries. Unlike YouTube, Vimeo operates on an ad-free basis, deriving its revenue from subscriptions by video content producers and other services. However, it now turns out that Vimeo has gone to the dark side, joining YouTube, Facebook, Google, and Twitter in restricting content disapproved by the left. Fred Lucas reports for the Daily Signal that Vimeo has removed a video critical of apparent connections between the Chinese Communist Party and a founder of the Black Lives Matter organization. The 6-minute video, produced by Choose Freedom, a conservative group with which the producer is associated, highlights various connections among activists. One group is Asians for Black Lives, founded by members of the Chinese Progressive Association of San Francisco, with ties to the Chinese government and Chinese Communist Party. It also underlines connections between San Francisco-based Chinese Progressive Association and Black Futures Lab, a group started by Black Lives Matter co-founder Alicia Garza. Pretty embarrassing stuff. Vimeo sent this message to the producer. Your video, BLM and Communist China, has been removed for violating our guidelines. Reason? You cannot upload videos that depict or encourage self-harm, falsely claim that mass tragedies are hoaxes, or perpetuate false or misleading claims about vaccine safety. Since this video didn't fit into any of those categories, it appears they took it down because it upset the Chinese Communist Party, the local communists, or both. Meanwhile, get this. Newly released records show text messages between the Kenosha DA and a BLM activist spanning almost 6 weeks. This is the guy who brought a first-degree murder charge against Kyle Rittenhouse, which is absurd, where he's now been brought back to Kenosha. The public now has access to newly released records that show Kenosha District Attorney Michael Gravely texting with Whitney Cabell, aka Billy Violent, a violence inciting Black Lives Matter activist. A weird exchange back and forth over nearly 6 weeks, sometimes after 10 p.m. In many messages, it seems like Gravely is giving Cabell updates on the Wisconsin Department of Justice investigation. In one message, Cabell warns Gravely that KPD is going to burn out. In another message, the two seem to be making breakfast plans. It should be noted that Gravely is married. It's a bizarre exchange, especially for the Kenosha County top prosecutor. Here's one example. I talked to the prosecutor, urge you to take Bob Detective his phone, Bob. Stay anonymous. You'd need to discuss that with the detective. I hope this helps and you will do the right thing. This is not good. No doubt this is another George Soros-sponsored candidate who assumed the office with his assistants to undermine the American judicial system. Giuseppe, your thoughts?
Man, those two stories taken in unison just show the level of the Bolshevik communist malignancy that continues to infect the sovereign republic of the United States. Vimeo is a wannabe. They've really very small kind of piece of the tech overlord domain, but now they're trying to censor, which is ridiculous and offensive. And hopefully this filmmaker it was produced by Choose Freedom, can find other platforms to get the word out, because of course, as we've documented day after day on Need to Know, the FETS report, Soros is an avowed communist. He's publicly stated on multiple occasions his greatest goal is to destroy the sovereign republic of the United States. He's a dual citizen, and one of his passports is the United States. He should be arrested, tried for sedition, and hanged. And the Kenosha DA, you could smell he was dirty from the moment this all happened. That young, poor, well-meaning, idealistic hero, Kyle Rittenhouse, should have maybe had some type of gun charge against him. Everything else was self-defense by these radical, mentally unhinged Zionist Jews. All four of them were radical Jews, and the world's a better place for what Kyle Rittenhouse did in his self-defense.
Oh, Giuseppe, I couldn't agree more. Scorpio, your thoughts?
Well, when it comes to Kyle Rittenhouse, it's clear when you see this kind of behavior by these prosecutors that, the previous culture that American had, which was honor, hard work, and honesty, those were the core values of America. They've been replaced by an anything goes culture, win at any cost. That's a corrosive and very evil belief system, and it is definitely tied into this Bolshevik Marxist agenda. And belief system. It's tragic what's happened. And as far as Vimeo goes, it is owned. The actual owner is some Hollywood big shot. I don't have the name in front of me, but the owner of Vimeo is a guy that's deeply connected to Hollywood and the Zionist agenda. So their behavior is no surprise. And of course, they put some Indian immigrant as the face. You know, oh look, she's in charge. No, that the owner is a Hollywood insider. And you know, these rules that they say for deleting things, these rules don't mean diddly squat. It's all about censorship and advancing a political agenda and nothing more.
Oh, you're 100% right. It's just plausible deniability. They're maintaining they had a reason when it's purely political. Meanwhile, I think this is shameful. Girl Scouts delete message congratulating Amy Coney Barrett among a backlash. The Girl Scouts posted a tweet Wednesday congratulating Amy Coney Barrett on becoming the 5th woman ever appointed to the Supreme Court. It was deleted a short time later. Here it is. You see the 5 women who have been appointed to the Supreme Court, she being the 5th. The backtrap was due to criticism from those concerned about what Barrett Scotta's appointment, given her track record in regard to issues pertaining to the Affordable Care Act, a lesbian and gay rights and abortion could mean for the future, where she has yet to rule in her role as a justice on any of these. Girl Scouts explained the tweet was deleted because it was viewed as political and partisan. That's just ridiculous. The Girl Scouts may have forgotten the perception their Barrett tweet could be viewed as a political and partisan statement after people responded by vowing to take their cookie consumption business elsewhere. This is just a reminder that Keebler has been making knockoff Girl Scout cookies for years, which are much more reasonably priced, available year-round. Most important, these elves have never tweeted support for someone who wants to strip Americans of health care. This is just outrageous. Here's another. I will not be supporting the Girl Scouts by buying their cookies any longer for characterizing themselves as non-political. They sure have no problem congratulating ACB. LGBTQ rights, women's rights, voting rights are in Scottish crosshairs, and they're congratulating that? No. Meanwhile, thank you, Girl Scouts, for deleting your tweet praising Amy Coney Barrett. The reason today's Girl Scouts won't have access to health care, equal pay, or any other rights we take for granted. This is just disgusting beyond belief. Giuseppe, your thoughts?
Utterly disgusting, Jim. It's funny how 2 excellent, nearly or more than essential organizations, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, helping to teach young men and women, boys and girls, their place in society, loyalty to family, loyalty to community, has been the malignant Talmudic international Jew culture has infected it now. So now all of a sudden you can't have decent American values. You have to support, and as did Ruth Bader Ginsburg, move towards pedophilia. So instead of teaching those young boys and girls how to prepare for adulthood, what those various organizations now want, the globalists want, is them to be sex toys in societally accepted pedophilia, which is the ultimate Talmudic goal of the globalists. So it's so disgusting, and people need to wake up and remove these dual citizen traitors from any vestige of power in the United States.
I was a Boy Scout for about a month, but it just didn't appeal to me. And
Yeah, me too.
want to pursue it. But I think the points you're making are very telling. Scorpio, your thoughts?
Well, this is incredible. Censorship, once it gets started, really has no bounds. And everything's been weaponized now. They are trying to weaponize every institution, including the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. The idea that you're going to have homosexual Boy Scout leaders take a bunch of young boys on an overnight sleepover in the woods somewhere. I don't know. I wouldn't allow that personally. So we're seeing an attack on every single decent value. And I think the reason for that is they want to create a society of dysfunctional people that are unable to do anything on their own, a nation of victims and weirdos. And of course, they're going to need the government to solve every one of their problems for them. And the idea that the Girl Scouts wouldn't praise a 47-year-old woman who's a mother and a successful lawyer and now on the Supreme Court, that they wouldn't praise that as a role model for young women is just beyond absurd. It shows the weaponized status of the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts.
Excellent point, Scorpio. Excellent, every one of them. Meanwhile, a fake Kamala got Loomer. Laura Loomer catches a Kamala Harris body double at a Palm Beach polling place. How bad is this? Here she comes with her mask. There's a Kamala lookalike was taking pictures with voters. Laura Loomer outed her as a fake. She shouted at the fraud. That's not Kamala Harris. That's very deceptive to the voter. The fake Kamala fled the scene once she was exposed. It turns out a couple of days ago, a Kamala lookalike search was posted on Facebook. Palm Beach County looking for one Secret Service type male or female actor with black suit. We can supply glasses and tie in PBC Palm Beach for this Sunday 1 to 5 to work with another Secret Service person to flank me as Kamala. Pay is not great, but snacks and a ride in this cool limo included. Meanwhile, Pete Buttigieg, another Biden surrogate, says another lockdown is on the table if Joe Biden is elected. This was Sunday on CNN with Jake Tapper. They really want to punish the middle and lower class in America. Jake Tapper, if Joe Biden wins, should another lockdown be on the table? Pete Buttigieg, well, hopefully it doesn't come to that because we'll see swift action coordinating and supporting public health authorities telling us what we can do as citizens without requiring any kind of mandates. But everything has to be on the table to make Americans safe. Meanwhile, Trafalgar Polling's Robert Cayley predicts a huge Trump win on Sunday morning futures with Maria Bartiromo. Pretty fascinating. During the discussion, he said the late breakers are going for Trump. What we are seeing is a movement toward Trump with late breakers. We're also seeing folks that had initially given every indication they were going to support Biden or they were undecided moving toward Trump. And the issue we see moving on is a shutdown. Even young people we've identified who don't like the president, they like shutdowns even less. Even suburban women who said they have problems with the president, they like their children home and shutdowns even less. Despite the bias and lies from the liberal media and tech tyrants, President Trump is in good position 2 days out from the election. I want your reaction to that. I think it's very positive news, late breakers heading for Trump. Giuseppe.
The fake Kamala Harris, unfortunately, the article doesn't relay whether that was done by just a fame seeker or was it done by the Biden campaign. If it's it sure seems like it was done by the Florida Biden campaign, but it doesn't say for sure. Either way, it's like they're mocking people because of all the fake Biden. So now they're going to use a fake Kamala. And good old Mayor Pete Buttblast is well, he's a sniveling little deviant who shouldn't be on the national stage and certainly shouldn't be a spokesperson for the Democratic Party. But the sad fact is there is no Democratic Party anymore. The party that I voted for and my family voted for as a small working class bleach company for nearly half a century doesn't exist. It's controlled by a malignant Talmudic Jew named Yorgi Schwartz, whose son Shlomo bragged about how he got to pick the vice president's candidate. And now it's a communist effort trying to destroy this country and put in place our partnership in the North American Union as we're all chipped and vaccinated and locked in place. And so I hope that surge is correct, Jim, because a Biden presidency, which is really a Kamala Harris presidency, will be a national nightmare and a true turning point and pretty much the destruction of the sovereign republic of the
I
United
think
States.
you're spot on about how the voters are turning to Trump. The question is, who's going to count the votes? As Stalin observed, it doesn't matter who casts the votes. What
Right.
matters is who counts them. Scorpio, your thoughts?
That's a great point, Jim. And when they have an entire week to play around with the ballots and count the votes until they come up the way they want, it's a big cause for concern for me personally. And this Mayor Pete Buttigieg, this guy is about as deep state oriented as you can imagine. CFR member, Rhodes Scholar, CIA connected, just to name a few things. This guy has a future, whether we like it or not. He'll be back. We'll be hearing more from this guy because he's one of their future pawns on the board for these deep state operatives. And yeah, it's great that there is a Kamala Harris lookalike exposed. Now let's have the Joe Biden lookalike exposed. It's pretty damn obvious now that it's not the same guy. And Buttigieg talking about a shutdown. They've got to completely destroy the economy so that people will have to take a handout from the government, whether they want to or not. And then once that's in place, there'll be more and more rules in order to get your handout. That's the plan, and I just hope more and more people see it.
You got it right, Scorpio. To get your handout, you're going to have to take the vaccine. And if you don't take the vaccine, they're going to put you in a FEMA camp to isolate you as a public health menace. And if you continue to hold out, you'll be regarded as an enemy of the state. And ultimately, I believe your head will be severed from your body. I think there's not a lot of doubt about the agenda as it's unfolding before us. Meanwhile, your remarks about Obama, he's slamming Trump for his claims about COVID death. Former Barack Obama attacked Trump for claiming doctors are inflating the number of COVID deaths to make a profit. His complaints of media is concentrating too much on the handling of the pandemic. But of course, Trump is completely right. His closing argument this week is the press and people are too focused on COVID, Obama said in Flint. As he appeared with Democratic nominee Biden, really with his body double. COVID, he's complaining. He's jealous of COVID's media coverage, and now he's accusing doctors of profiting off of the pandemic. But we know from Senator Scott Jensen of Minnesota that the hospitals are being paid $13,000 for every patient they identified as COVID and $39,000 for every patient they put on a respirator. Trump made the claims this weekend in Wisconsin when he said doctors get more money, hospitals get more money if they list COVID as a cause of death. Obama makes ridiculous remarks about somebody risking their life to save others without making a buck. That's certainly not true of Obama, who's been campaigning for Biden recent in Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and moving to Georgia today. Meanwhile, Fox News, and I'm very glad for this, is reporting accurately that 97% of those who are alleged to have died from COVID had other comorbidities or reasons to die. But since they were tested positive or more strikingly presumed positive, even without being tested, they were being counted as COVID deaths. So Barack Obama is just full of it. Meanwhile, here's some key features. With fewer than 100 hours to Election Day, the Trump and Biden campaigns are sweeping across the swing states, likely to decide the election's outcome. Concerns are mounting over voter confusion, public confidence in officials, and election administration issues, highly appropriately. Meanwhile, Americans are gearing up for possible post-election violence during a high-stakes presidential election, where the winner may not be determined for days or even weeks. Very troubling. Of all the reports I've seen, this comment bothers me the most. Janice Blaze remarked, General Tom McInerney speaks in Operation Freedom about Operation Hammer, set to program the voting machines to make Biden the winner. No wonder he doesn't even bother to show up. Get it out. I checked out this lieutenant general is a former Air Force lieutenant general who would seem to be in a position to know what he is talking about. Meanwhile, here's the latest from Milley.
Our undercover inside the Sunrise Movement was able to obtain exclusive video footage inside Zoom chats where Shutdown DC, BLM, and other leftist organizations are coordinating a multi-level coup action exercise utilizing insider help from Democrat Party members as well as federal employees and intelligence contractors.
I'm a management and programs analyst.
I work in the national security community.
I spent 3.5 years as a contractor at DHS HQ.
If you read the mainstream press, like they all have Signal accounts, text them, leak everything you can. The journalists I've dealt with have been super ethical in ways to shield me, to be the source of the leaks.
Groups on the outside being able to show solidarity with federal workers.
Making sure that we're naming what is happening as a coup.
Totally agreed in the Shutdown DC conversations that I've been having, and that's not on the federal side. We also are often saying that we call it a coup.
They plan to shut down Washington, D.C. and other major U.S. cities starting November 4th until Inauguration Day.
Do we have any plans for how to respond if there's a coup?
Come to BLM Plaza anytime after 4 p.m. on election night. On the 5th, we're going to shut down the White House.
Map the White House and know every access point so we knew we could blockade it.
On the 6th, we're going to shut down larger parts of Washington, D.C.
We've been working on a target map and a framework for scenario. So where are all the police stations? Where are all the key government buildings? Who are the Trump boosters?
Members of Congress that are coming in, we're going to meet them at the airports or at Union Station and send them back to where they came from until we deal with the situation that we're in.
We are going to be in a crisis, but we want it to be one that we are creating. Whoever's got the guns can win. Let's take over the buildings. If there are people that are willing to do that, we should support them. Get ready to shut your city down on the 4th or the 5th.
Regardless of who wins, the left plans to take over.
I think Milley's been doing a very good job all across the board. The most interesting remark, no doubt, being whoever's got the guns is going to win. Giuseppe, your thoughts?
Yeah, Jim, the communist left, what an inspiring group of people they appear to be, right? Everyone, just their body language and the look in their eyes, they're just mentally imbalanced, just lowlifes, and yet that's who's banded together to try and destroy the sovereign republic of the United States. And I hope it's a clear landslide for Trump, and then it'll be very good to see the National Guard take care of business. Like Trump said weeks ago, he offered to help Portland put out that fire in 30 minutes, and I'd like to see the DC fire put out in 15.
Yeah, I agree with all that. My worry is that Lieutenant General report about affecting the voting machines. That's the most disturbing to me. Scorpio, your thoughts?
Jim, I agree. You know, it is very disturbing when a lieutenant general is talking about stuff that he knows on a personal basis about election fraud. That's very disturbing. That's something that I've been concerned about for quite some time about this election. And, you know, we've got this army of fembots, soy boys, and transgender weirdos that are ready to take down the system. And they're going to let them do it. The mayors and the governor of these crazy states are going to let these people run wild. I'm a little concerned about, you know, I guess you're going to have to bring in the National Guard to quell this, but, you know, you just have to be very concerned once you have military people on the streets. Anything can happen at that point. And, you know, and this COVID thing is just so out of control. It's the ultimate ploy for big government, because without big government, without the vaccine, you're going to die. Your immune system no longer matters. And, I don't believe these test numbers they throw around for a minute. They're saying 100,000 people per day are testing positive. So that would mean roughly 1 million tests are done a day if you base that on a 10% positive rate. Sorry, I'm not buying it. And as you like to say, Jim, give me a break.
Yeah, and you're right. And of course, they've stopped counting. Even the CDC has announced they're not counting flu cases, which of course historically surge in the winter, so they can include them as COVID cases. It's a monstrous scam that we have clearly defined during our multiple reports. Meanwhile, we want to hear from you. Here's a nice post on my blog by A. Wilk. If you do research yourself instead of listening to communist idiots like Whitmer, Fauci, Gates, and the CNN doctors, you would listen to thousands of doctors and people who are on the same level of Fauci who say otherwise about this flu. The CDC and WHO has also recently stated the number of deaths actually caused by COVID are about 6,000, not the hundreds of thousands we're being told. That part of it is a scam to reduce it, to induce intense fear, intimidation, and manipulation control of the population. Thousands of doctors are treating their COVID patients with hydroxychloroquine and other remedies with tremendous success. Even the tests are proven to be incorrect. They've stated that the flu we've been living with for years has a much higher death rate than COVID. It's most dangerous to elderly due to their low immune system and other health conditions, but still only a 5% chance of dying from it. The wearing of masks is actually useless in stopping the spread, and Fauci and others are talking about masks permanently. Like you said, closing society won't stop deaths, and we are learning to live with this virus just as we've done with all the others. Vaccines aren't a deterrent either. What exactly are the pharmaceuticals of vaccines being created by Gates and Fauci putting into their vaccines? I don't trust either one of them at all. Look what they've done to the children in India and Africa. I pray people open their vision as to just exactly what the globalists are trying to accomplish here. Go to YouTube and look up a 9-part series about how communism came to rule China, Russia, and now in America. They're using the same playbook. Enforcing where people to wear masks is part of it. A psychological manipulative tactic to wear us down so they can troll us. Meanwhile, as some of the students were observing, Trump's first term leads to the lowest Black imprisonment rate in 31 years. Remarkable. The Trump administration has set another milestone with the USA incarceration rate at a 25-year low. For Black inmates fallen more sharply to the lowest level since 1989. The president reinforced his commitment to criminal justice on October 21st by granting clemency to 5 inmates sentenced to long terms for nonviolent crimes. Trump made justice a priority of his first term with the 2018 First Step Act, giving thousands of inmates a chance to reintegrate into society. The president's reforms have had the biggest impact on minorities, with a proportion of Hispanic residents in prison down 24%, Blacks by 29%, incarceration of whites even by 12%. Meanwhile, here's what the governor of California is offering for California residents for Thanksgiving. No more than 3 households present, parties no longer than 2 hours, guests must stay outside, avoid singing, chanting, and shouting. I mean, this is disgusting. Giuseppe, your thoughts?
It is absolutely disgusting, Jim. It's part of one of the biggest criminal cabals in existence, the Big Pharma criminal syndicate. It's part of their plan to work with the globalist banksters, the largest criminal cabal on the planet, truly satanically evil, Talmudic parasites, to essentially inoculate every human being on the planet with a toxic, controlling poisons that in some cases will seek to rewrite your DNA. The problem with these liberal cowards who are backing all this and the arrogant know-it-all, know-nothings of corporate science is they do not understand how nature, how life really works. The medicine that's so vaunted that it is barely 110 years old, comes from John D. Rockefeller's industrial waste. And so now that is the preeminent science on the planet. Well, I'll tell you what, that they have no clue of how the human body really works, how the energetics are involved. Real medicines like the medicine I'm trained in, 6,000-year-old traditional Chinese medicine, or even older Ayurvedic medicine, understand the energetics of the body. There is an energy, that a life force that is involved in all things, and you cannot rewrite one or two snippets of DNA when the coronavirus, which is the common cold, which insanely, satanically, they're making out to be the new nanoterrorist. It's everywhere. We're in large part made of viruses that have been co-opted into this more advanced structure, the human body. It's insanely arrogant and ultimately destructive to the human population to think that you can rewrite the immune function to fight a common cold, which is everywhere. It's in every human, it's in every mammal, it's ubiquitous. And so it's not going to turn out well. I advocate and beg viewers, do not get a flu vaccine, do not get your children vaccinated anymore, do not take any one of these insane RNA vaccines like Moderna or the Johnson & Johnson or the AstraZeneca. They're insane and deadly, and just stay away from it. As the great Dr. Judy Mikovits pointed out months ago, all vaccines are contaminated, and if you get even a flu vaccine, that's the trigger to potentially have catastrophic health events or even deaths. And it's proven by a few days ago in South Korea when 48 people died brutally from getting a flu vaccine, and that is only going to become the new normal, the tragic new normal.
That's a marvelous statement, Giuseppe. Let's take that as your final thoughts. Scorpio, your final thoughts.
Great points, Giuseppe. You know, this really is all about a centralized control over every aspect of our lives, including our health. Only big government can save you. That's the message. And I totally agree with your points about vaccines. And hey, let's be healthy. Let's live healthy lifestyles and exercise, be with family, and practice whatever spiritual beliefs you need to do. That's how you're going to beat all of this. But meanwhile, they want us to put toxic waste on our hands, known as a hand sanitizer, that destroys the natural bacteria that should be on your skin. And then your skin is the biggest organ in your body, so all those chemicals go into your blood system. Read the back of one of those bottles. It's a toxic waste zone, and they want you to put that on your skin every 15 minutes. It's pathetic. And isn't it interesting how whenever that was a great email, by the way, from one of your listeners. Isn't it interesting how Dr. Fauci is always called the nation's top infectious disease expert? Well, why? What makes him the top expert? Because he's worked for the government since the 1980s. He's had his ass parked at the government, hasn't done a damn thing, and he's the best we got. Don't buy it, people. And you know, these masks, they're bad for your health, and they're also symbolic, aren't they? Because it's saying, don't speak your mind, don't talk, you're a slave. People have got to see that. And lastly, isn't it interesting how churches have been closed, but liquor stores stayed open? And you know, this governor of California, Newsom, these people want to literally control every aspect of your life, including how many people you're allowed to have over to your house for dinner. People have got to wake up and see what's going on, because this will not end well, like Giuseppe said.
Well, Giuseppe, I know you have a final thought you want to add, not having known. Go ahead.
It's just absolutely criminal, and this is a type of techno fascist communistic overthrow of the entire world, and they're all in, and this is our final stand. And if people don't wake up, rip off those masks, shove them up Bill Gates' backside. And Tony Fauci, his one great skill is he's a cutthroat bureaucrat. He figured out as a young man how to use fear and to climb the ladders of the federal government's bureaucracy, and he's managed to, because the average politician doesn't understand what he does, and he can scare them so easy, to create this CDC, which is this bizarre hybrid entity. It's part private corporation, so Fauci can make millions off these vaccine patents that he doesn't develop. He's essentially a mediocre mind who's been wrong about every big pharma drug, as we discussed months ago, and I wrote an article. He's literally an epic mass murderer to the tune of about 30 million people, because he was totally wrong using the drugs to fight AIDS with chemotherapy drugs, which killed so many millions upon millions of people. He's been wrong with every drug that's come out for every gain of function bioweapon created. People need to remember, HIV was created in a lab, swine flu created in a lab, gain of function, bird flu, H1N1, SARS, MERS, now the real nasty one, SARS-CoV-2, created in a lab intentionally. And so this is it. People, you gotta wake up, take off those masks, live your life. It's just obscene what that ludicrous boob Newsom. I saw you just flash that graphic of the rules for Thanksgiving. Ridiculous. Wake up, people.
This is Jim Fetzer in Madison, thanking my colleagues, Giuseppe Vafangiulo from the District of Criminals and David Scorpio from the exotic land of Ecuador for their comments and commentary. Just underlying the theme, Anthony Fauci, Tony the Rat, predicted in 2017 that the Trump administration would have to deal with a surprise pandemic. But how could it have been a surprise if Anthony Fauci knew it was coming in 2017? And when he was a designated point man in the administration to prevent pandemics, think about it, you've been played again and again. Tomorrow is a decisive day in American history. We'll be here to give you an update. We want you to join us then to bring you all the news you need to know. Thanks for watching.